Hello and welcome to the Selfishly podcast. I'm your host Sebastian Corvey, or you can call me Seb. And on today's episode number 5, I've got a wonderful friend of mine named Jayde Gray coming on. Jayde is a all-round performer, entertainer, singing sensational star. And we met on a theatre production of Pride and the Prejudice, which was done with Charlotte, who I did my first episode with. And we just blossomed together since then. I really wanted Jayde to come on the podcast to talk to her about Eurovision because I know she's had an experience there and I've never really learned much about Eurovision. But we then ended up delving into a lot of different topics such as violence, social media, high school, schooling, many different things. We had a lot of conversations that I think are good to have and some interesting things to talk about. And I hope I'm starting to ramble now, again, as always. So please just enjoy the podcast and you can hear the rest for yourself. Take it away, me. It's so refreshing.
Oh, this is so good.
Probably just because it's just like cold water and just sugar syrup mixed together.
Yes, this is so good.
I need this.
Yeah, I know. It's so bad.
It's so bad, but I love it.
I know. Same.
So I haven't properly introduced you yet.
Yeah, this is chaotic.
So we've already just 11 minutes, nearly 12 through.
Yeah.
Haven't even introed you. Amazing.
That's okay.
So welcome
Thank you.
Oh wow, I wasn't talking to you.
Oh, okay.
No, well, I feel bad now because I
it's
wasn't. I was
fine.
talking to the guest, but I should have.
Okay.
You're the guest. I was talking to the listener.
That's right. You go ahead.
Hello and welcome to the Selfishly podcast. I'm your host Seb Corvey or Sebastian. Today, episode 5, I'm here with my beautiful friend Jayde Gray.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. It is a warm day today and I'm melting.
It is so hot. You're wearing all black.
Yeah,
So you're just absorbing the heat.
it's awful. I had work and so I'm like driving in my little car which doesn't have aircon
Oh,
right now and I'm
no.
like so hot.
Did you have the windows down?
I did, but man,
What did not
peak
help?
hour did not
Oh
help.
no.
I was not even going fast enough for there to be wind. And
Especially the way you're coming from. It's so busy
Yeah,
over
I
that
know.
way.
I know. It'll be fine when I go home.
Yeah,
There'll be no traffic.
Yeah.
There'll be no sun. It's fine.
And you can have the windows down. Well, the
Right.
sun also doesn't set till like 8 o'clock now.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's really
trash.
fun. Sorry.
Maybe we
Sorry
should
for
just
dampening
bin the
you.
sun.
Yeah. Just do it. I
Like-
mean, it's already.
It's awful. I
know.
hate it
I
already.
mean, it's frustrating because it's our source of life and energy.
Yeah.
But
How whack is
But at the same time,
that? Skin cancer.
exactly,
Death.
it's killing us. We've got a depleting ozone
Oh yeah.
above us as well.
Australia.
So,
Australia really said no ozone.
yeah.
Cancelled.
And
we
here
don't
we
need
are.
her.
It's
Bye.
awful. So thanks, Australia.
But lots of people don't know that. Like, they're like, oh yeah, so here Australia's hot, but I don't know why everyone gets sunburn. I'm like, there's no ozone. They're like, what does that mean? And I was like,
Well, I also remember in like the early 2000s, there was such a period where there were so many ads all about like carbon emissions and like
Yeah.
the black balloons going into the air.
oh my
But now I feel like
God.
it's a full 180 and people just don't believe that stuff's happening with the environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That I find really crazy, especially with like our government right now. And they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna like mine the ocean for oil. And we're like, that's literally going to end the planet. And they're like,
Oops.
okay, well.
And then there was like the UN like summit for climate change or something, and we
Yeah.
weren't properly invited because we had
Because-
just gone through the purchase
Yeah.
with the mine thing,
Adani, yeah.
and it's sort of just like, do we just like, are we just really that oblivious or just not?
Literally
like I don't
trash.
understand.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It's also frustrating.
I get so mad, especially when like people like Donald Trump are saying things like, "Oh, Greta Thunberg is like just a child. She's so miserable. Like, why don't you just be happy, little girl?" And it's like, okay, well, there's a 15-year-old that's actually trying to like use her life for good and fix the planet, and all you're doing is worrying about scandals and like you're not actually like focusing on what's important.
I can imagine as younger than us, obviously,
Yeah.
people being like, well, they're probably like the ones who will have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like the people like old, we might not. I mean, well, apparently we might have to deal with like 2050
We'll
or
be
whatever. Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But I mean, they'll like my nieces and all that. They'll
Yeah.
they'll probably be the ones who have to deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
And they would just be like, "What are you doing?" Because apparently my sister was saying they learn about climate change and everything in primary school.
Yeah.
So I can imagine being all these like little kids being like, "We can see stuff is happening, but you're going out of your way to seemingly do the opposite of what
Yeah.
we need to do."
Yeah.
I can see why it would be frustrating. Well, I mean, it is frustrating.
Yeah,
But-
it's awful.
so that's really fun. That's
fun.
what's happening at the moment.
Yeah,
in
anyway,
the
our world is
like-
dying.
Yes. But onto a much lighter note.
Yep.
So I met Jade back in 2016. Yeah. Those years kind of all blur. When we did Pride and the Prejudice
Yeah.
with Busco and Charlotte's studio company. How did you get into that?
Oh my god, that's the funniest story actually, because
Yes.
I was it was my first year of uni and I just moved to Melbourne and I was like, I'm such a good actor, like I am better than anybody. And so I've like walked my little butt into auditions and Charlotte's there and that's the first time I met Charlotte at these auditions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I've nailed this. I'm the funny character. I'm so good. And it was me and another friend up for the role. And then, like, I put on my application form, like, I will not accept ensemble. I am a lead. Anyway, so I didn't get
Amazing.
cast.
Oh, no.
And yeah, I was originally not in the
Oh my
cast because
God.
I'd written, no, I'm not going to be ensemble. And they were like, yeah, there's no role for you. And I was like, I'm devastated. So I was like talking to a friend about it who was on the production team. And they were like, if you really want to do it, like, there is a role, but it is literally like 5 lines. And I was like, okay, well, I feel like being a part of something because my life needs some meaning right now. If they want me, like, I'll totally do it.
Yeah.
And so, sure enough, he told Charlotte, and Charlotte's like, yeah, you can come on board as the alcoholic. And I was like, perfect.
I'm there.
I'm there. So I literally have like 2 scenes in the show, and I ended up like bonding with the production team more because I had such a little role. I ended up like doing all of this extra stuff, like I did all the videos that I ended up shooting.
Yeah, true.
And I ended up like getting really close to you and Charlotte, and
Yeah.
like the whole. It was just so funny.
That's so no, that's so true because I was thinking about where I first remember you from,
Yeah.
and that does make so much sense. Of like obviously because I was obviously doing the pictures,
Yeah.
and I feel like because you were there, but like you said, you didn't have to do as like you weren't as in many scenes. You were able to like mingle and like
Yeah.
sit with us and everything, and
You can't. Sit
you
with us.
can't sit with us unless you mingle with us first.
Yeah, you can sit with us, I guess.
Unless we give
Yeah.
you permission.
Yeah.
But then I just remember you were just like always there. And no, I just remember you there.
way?
Like, no, in a good way. Yeah, in a
Okay.
good, sorry. Yeah. I'm
You
trying
were
to
like always there.
you were there.
I was like, what the hell?
no, because you were like such a, from my perspective at the time, you
Yeah.
were such like a bright, I don't know, charismatic person
That's so
who was just like
nice.
a joy to be around.
Oh my
I know,
God.
but and in saying that at the same time, because I was talking to a friend on my last podcast,
Yeah.
and I was saying how when I was in high school or even like sometimes later or whatever, I would figure out in my mind the best way to like try and get along with people.
Yeah.
And my sister would say, I remember I asked her once and she said, that's so fake. But it never felt fake to me.
Yeah.
And so I've just like and we had a talk and I was trying to think about it. And I realized, because I was like, I've recently just met a few new people. And I realized something I do is like try match their energy and
Yeah.
like get with them to be on like their level.
Yeah.
And it just made me think of you because you were so always like that. I
Yeah.
wanted to be like, okay, well, I gotta like be on that
Oh my
level with her
God,
as well.
stop.
No, and like, but I mean, and that's not to say I was like faking it or anything.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was just like getting into that like fun mood. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like you're a theater kid sort of
Yeah.
thing. You know what I
I'm
mean?
such a theater
And I was like, I did drama and stuff, never to the extent of like all the people acting and stuff.
Yeah.
But like you would always see those. I was never really like theater kid of like
Yeah.
that super loud personality. That's not to say it's in a bad way, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying it's like a distinctive thing.
Yeah.
So that's like how I remember you from that.
Oh my
and
God.
then yeah,
Yeah.
That's
I
fun.
always thought, I was like, I don't know, I was trying very hard in my first year of uni. Like, not that I was faking who I was,
Yeah.
but I really wanted to make friends because I like had no friends after I left high school. I had like a handful, and I was like, I'd left behind like my little high school life because I was like, this is trash. No one gets me. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay,
love
start
that.
fresh. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so like doing the show, I was like, okay, cool. I have a whole outlet for like other people. And then like I got to know you, and I was like, wow, he's so cool.
Oh my gosh,
Oh
stop.
my god, you and Charlotte and Alicia, I was like, wow, they are the coolest people
Oh my
ever.
God.
And not only that, they're older than me. So I'm in with like the cool kids.
I love that so much. That's so good though. I honestly love that.
God,
It's so
it's
cute.
so awful, but
That's
I'm
funny.
so glad though.
Yeah.
I feel like because I made friends with older people as well, I like grew up a lot quicker too because
Yeah.
I was so mature in high school. So like it was good because Charlotte is so like she's like really onto life, and so
Yeah.
like I really like connected to that, and I was like, okay, I have to grow up now. Like I'm an adult, and I don't know, you guys like and uni was like my only source of friends at the time, so it was me like getting to know people, and I like obviously clung to the theatre people. I was like, give me,
Yeah.
you're my people, and it was just like a cool experience because I mean I had friends in high school obviously, but not many theatre friends.
Yeah.
And so I knew, like, I was like, when I go to university, I'm going to find my people. You watch me now.
Yeah. It's like the start of
I have
a like,
friends.
yeah. I'm just imagining like this, like a Broadway like stage of you with like a suitcase, being like, I'm on my way to the big city. Like,
Literally, that was
storming,
me in
like-
my head. I was like, yeah, this is my life now.
I love that though. That's honestly the best.
Small country girl moves to the city and
Yes.
finds her people. Yeah.
Well, I mean, one day that's gonna make a great biopic.
Mate,
or book.
absolutely.
You know, I love that. I remember once in year 8, my English teacher was like, if your life was a movie, would anyone want to watch it? And I was just like, I don't know. And so then from like literally that point, I was like, I want to have movie moments in my life. And I mean, it's been fun. Like
It's
that's
so
been a
much more
good
fun.
thing
Yeah.
to keep in mind.
Yeah, and
Would-
like, is this a really good sitcom or is this awful? That's how I totally live
Yeah,
my
am
life
I in
now.
a really sad place right now? Like, would this be a sad movie, or would this be like,
Play all by myself.
yeah, just dramatically, like everything's just now
Looks
black
out
and
the
white.
window.
Yeah, always so bad.
Fully me. Awful.
Have you? And you've just always been like that? Do you think? Like,
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, like, I was always loud. And there was a while there where I would like, when I was in primary school, I used to cry a lot.
Oh.
And so like, I just cried anything. Like people would just hurt my feelings. They could say anything and I'd be like, and so they like, my parents put me into therapy for a while because someone was like, that's a problem. Like she's so
my
emotional.
gosh.
Like what is her problem? And so I had like therapy when I was really young.
Oh wow.
And
So it was before you continue. Do you remember like it?
I
Like, do you
remember
what it was
like a sand pit. Like they make me do plays in the sand pit, and so I used to live for it. I'd like leave class and go and play in the sand pit and make scenes from like all of the little, all of the little like characters, and that would be like my calming moment, right? And and I had like no friends in primary school, except for this group of like girls who were no good, but like that's where I slotted in the end. My mum used to work at the school and I used to go and hang out with my mum at lunchtime until I met these people, so it was awful.
Oh, little Jade. I just want
Yeah.
to like see a little picture of you in primary school now, just so I can like
I have
imagine
to
it.
show you, it's awful. I used to wear my hair like back, like a knot at the back of my head, and then I'd wear a beanie, and I literally looked like I had leukemia.
Oh,
It was awful.
Oh, no.
Anyway, it was awful. I had the worst fashion sense, and I wanted to be so cool, and all of the girls would wear like those little crappy elastic headbands and like wear their skirts short, and I was just like the little kid wearing the long sleeve t-shirts with like leggings under my culottes and like
Oh my gosh.
but yeah, none of the kids, like I was so loud and the kids hated me for like my crazy little like antics, like oh my god, she's too wild. And then I went to high school and there was a year where people thought I was like the bee's knees. They were like, oh yeah, she's so cool, she's so funny. And then like after that year, people were like, Jade, shut up, Jade, you're awful. Like,
my gosh.
it was awful. So I've always been
roller coaster.
yeah, I've always been really loud, but I ended up learning to like shut myself off, and I used to like be really emo and like post statuses on Facebook to get attention because I couldn't be loud at school. And, like there was this one stage where I was I used to like get up early enough to watch sunrise.
Yeah.
And I would take the jokes that Koshi would tell in the morning, and I'd like show up to home group and I'd be like, hey guys, so what are your joke?
From Koshi.
I was so annoying.
Oh my god. Can I just say, I'm so happy I met you later in life.
You were 6 months by the time that time had passed, you met me at the right time. I was awful.
No, you know what? Don't even worry, because I in year 11, and that's in high school term, that's like later on when you're meant to be getting your shit together.
Yeah.
I had to do in media class. I had done a day in the life of Seb video. So for a while I had been like vlogging, but not even like vlogging, just like it's just me literally just filming my day.
Yeah.
And I had made a day in the life of thing, but I had lost the DVD of it and like was so sad because I wanted to see, it was like a little time capsule thing. But then yesterday I found the files, got them to work, and they're just like the original recordings, and so much yelling, so much screaming. I mean, like, okay, maybe not actual yelling and screaming, but I'm just so loud. Like, I never thought I was really loud.
Yeah.
But I'm just like cringe.
Yeah.
Like, how is anyone my friend? Just it's just
I was
painful.
So bad in high school,
Okay.
and because I used to do heaps of performance stuff in Melbourne, people would because I was already annoying, people would think I was bragging. I thought I was too good for everyone. And yeah, I'd be like, guys, I get to sing for the Queen, and they'd be like, you're still annoying.
Oh my God.
Thank you. They're like, she's just bragging. She's such a show up. Like, she just wants to get all the attention. Probably true, but also
But then they were probably just sad that they weren't singing. You know what I mean? But, honestly though, I think of kids and teenagers can be so awful because they haven't got that they haven't got that realization of other people really properly yet. I mean I didn't.
No.
And even now watching my nieces, and my niece who's 4, the other one's 1, so she can't interact with people properly yet.
Yeah.
But watching her interact with other young kids at kindergarten or whatever, they're just so dry about everything. If you bump into them and they're don't like that, they're like, oh, I'm going to tell on you, straight away thing.
Awful.
And it's just straight to the no shit, straight to the point with them. But at the same time, when you get older and that attitude doesn't shift into being oh, but I don't know.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm trying to say?
No, I know what you're saying. It's awful because they just don't realize the world is bigger than them. Kids are just so focused on themselves. They don't have to worry about everyone else. And so it's just really hard. So when this girl is doing well, they're what did they sort of reflect upon themselves, and they're oh, I don't have that. So this person is just showing off for sport or and because I was a little bit different, a little bit eccentric, they were well, you suck.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
And it's brutal, but I'm really glad now that I'm older, I can see that even though I was probably really annoying in high school and just trying to get attention, everyone was just trying to get attention.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and everyone, literally, and everyone was in that space of trying to figure themselves out, and then and what you were saying about seeing other people succeeding and being oh, why can't I do that? And it ends up into this a cycle of, well, I feel bad that I'm not doing something.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and make them feel bad about it. It made me kind of think of, even now with social media and stuff.
Oh my God.
I
had someone message me. I recently, I was in the process of auditioning for The Voice, and I made it to top 500, which was really exciting.
Amazing.
And I posted about it. I posted a video of me singing online. I had someone message me, tell me the reason you didn't get any further is because you sung a Lizzo song, and I know so many people that sang a Lizzo song. I was oh, congratulations, would have been nice.
Yeah, that's so strange.
Yeah, just hiding behind a keyboard. It's so easy to say that. But the thing, it's so weird because I did make it further by guy singing Lizzo. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like you obviously don't really understand what's
yeah.
happening.
Yeah, it's so
But-
weird. But yeah.
That's why I mean, it feels like that's a thing you realize when you grow up of being like, that's not the way to go about it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't like, if like, it's better to, like, I don't know, realize that it's something you need to personally work on for yourself
Yeah.
than to put that onto someone else and
Yeah.
be like, you know what I mean? Like, because what's the gain from them personally saying that to you?
You know, people say like all the time, like if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. That is so true. Like, what's the point in spreading more negativity in the world? Like, we already have a world that's like so
Burning.
chaotic. It's dying.
It's literally on fire. The
The ice
Amazon
caps
is
are
still burning.
melting. Yeah, it's like, I don't understand why people like, seriously, like, I don't know why you're still around like on Facebook or anything. If you don't have anything nice to say, like, just delete me.
Yeah.
Probably like.
Yeah. If I upset you in a way that makes you want to like say something rude to me,
I'm
then
not
what's
gonna be
the
offended
point?
if you delete me. It's probably for the best. I'm more offended if you write something like nasty.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm more offended if you offend me
Yeah.
like directly.
Yeah, exactly. So weird.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
Did you? Because you're only. What year did you graduate?
2015.
2015. Oh, so you're 3 years younger.
Yeah.
Which I mean, because I remember, like, MySpace was like the king
Yeah.
in like
I
2009.
didn't have MySpace at all, but it was my mum made me a Facebook account
Yeah.
for my Christmas present
Oh.
going into like high school.
Oh my gosh.
And she gave
Going
me, like,
into high school, so
Yeah.
year 7.
Yeah,
Wow.
so she like hooked me up, and I was like so excited. The only reason I wanted Facebook was so I could play Farmville. That's the
Amazing.
actual tea. Like, I was like, Mum, I just want to play Farmville so bad. Can you let me on your computer so I can play Farmville? And then she caved one day and just made me a Facebook
Oh my
account.
gosh.
I didn't really do anything with it.
Except
To
play
start
Farmville?
with, except play Farmville and like post like statuses being like going to Melbourne today, yay! And I share them
Oh my
all the time.
gosh.
They're so awful. Anyway,
That's so funny.
they're so trash. And yeah, I literally only use it for that. And then like as I made friends in high school, I like added people, and I would be like, somebody come online and chat to me. Like, even though I was like
Oh my
texting
gosh.
all my friends, I'd be like, I also want to get on this Facebook like chat thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was
Oh my
huge
gosh.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember Facebook for me was like came in kind of later.
Yeah.
Like I remember my friend and I got an account in like 2009.
Yeah.
And my mum and my sister were like one of our like a few of my only friends because everyone was still had their MySpace.
Yeah.
And then probably didn't touch it for a few months or anything.
Yeah.
And then slowly like the wave of everyone came
Totally.
across from there to
must have
Facebook.
just come in at the right time. That was when sort of the wave of everyone going
Yeah.
on Facebook happened.
Well, I
And-
think everyone it was so much easier to get like your iPhones and like, they were all, it was just easier
Yeah.
for like people's platforms. Like even like, my friend was saying, maybe it was like 2011, but she still had like an iPod Touch.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a phone, but she could still have like
had
Facebook
an
and stuff
iPod
on it.
Touch.
Yeah.
I lived for my iPod Touch.
Yes.
I started with a Nano though,
Oh,
so I'd like
the
put my
Nanos,
flip
though.
phone in my pocket with my Nano,
Oh,
right?
okay. Was
And
it?
it's so slim.
Did you remember those little like square ones that you could
No,
like
not the
clip on?
shuffle. Yeah,
Oh my
oh my
gosh,
God.
those were
Yeah.
quality.
I had one that could actually have a screen and play games on. I used to play
Like Snake?
Sims on it all the time.
Sims.
Yeah, because you could make them dance and go to the. I don't know, it was so weird. It was like a music one,
Oh
and
my
like
gosh.
you could make them all like turn into yeehaw people who play country music. It was really good. But yeah, I used to put my like iPod in my pocket and my phone, and I started out like I got my phone when I was in like grade 3, but it was like a little Nokia,
Oh,
like
yeah.
a little one. And so I was texting people for ages. So like upgrading to Facebook was huge, and then I started using Facebook more. And then with that came like using data, because my mum hadn't let me, like I had a ban on like YouTube and things like that up until I was in like high school.
Yeah.
And so like I got into high school, and mum was so confused because like all of a sudden like I needed more for my phone plan. She was like, what is happening? I was like, Mum, Facebook. Like I use all my data on Facebook, and how am I going to message my friends?
Yeah.
Like this is
Need
awful.
to be connected with them.
Yeah.
All
and
the
so-
time.
Yeah, exactly. And so when mum would upgrade her phone, I would get a phone upgrade. So it like worked.
Yeah,
So I
don't
just
get
kept
that.
taking mum's old phone
Yeah.
for
Oh
the
my
longest time.
And was like, so it was obviously like a huge thing.
Oh yeah,
Like-
for me, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because mum was so strict on like the no YouTube, no like nothing. And then all of a sudden I was like, I'm in high school now. I can go on YouTube. I can use my phone to stream things.
Do you remember what you used to watch on
Oh my
YouTube?
god. Oh my god. I really loved Annoying Orange.
Oh no.
It was awful.
Of course you did.
I used to like quote it all the time at school. I had a bad habit. I would like watch videos and memorize it really well. That's how I knew I was going to be an actor.
Yeah.
And I used to like, when I was in grade 3, I would like walk into class. Mum showed me like Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. And I like would walk into like primary school being like, fuck off, you silly
Oh my god.
And they'd be like, you can't say that.
And they're like, Jade, you have to go out to the sandpit. You can't talk like that.
Go to the sandpit, make a scene. Anyway, yeah, it was awful. So I used to like quote things, and so I'd come to school like quoting the Annoying Orange and like ASDF movie.
Oh
and,
yes.
like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, no, that's amazing. Like vintage YouTube, early like.
Yeah.
Wait, what year would that have been?
That was 2010.
2010.
When I started high school. Yeah.
Oh my, you said that's so. I mean, you said there were the 3 years, but I didn't. I just.
Yeah, you're
it
like,
just
what?
still sometimes it's so because I feel like since the end of uni, or even like during uni, I got to a spot where I just didn't really care about people's ages.
I don't process age anymore.
Yeah, like
unless they're really immature, and then I'm like, how old are you?
Yeah, no, yeah, true. Like it's one of no, I get that when there's like those little signs. I'm like, oh, I can tell.
Yeah, I usually have a really good read on people straight away too, and so I'm like, how old are you?
Yeah.
Tell me.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
What any personal reason.
Yeah.
But that was why I was thinking. Why I was just like, oh, 2010's when you started.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I started in 07. It's really not that different. But the only thing that I always seem to talk about is with the social media stuff.
Yeah.
Is how in high school, like the first half didn't like Mum never let me use MySpace.
Yeah.
Because my sisters had MySpace and didn't use like. Yeah, early internet days, and she was like, "You're never." I remember she came home from groceries one time, and I went outside, and I was like, "Mom, I have to talk to you." And she's like,
no!
What's wrong? She probably thought I was like trying to come out to her or something, but I was just like, "I got a MySpace," and she's like, "Sebastian, I am so disappointed in you." I was like, "Mom, I promise I'm not gonna add any randoms. I'm just gonna do people I know."
I used to add like when I got my Facebook account, I would be like, Google search Robert Pattinson and like add him as a friend, and then he'd add me back. It was clearly not him. But I'd be like, guys,
oh my god,
Robert Pattinson added me on Facebook.
That's also it's just funny because it's like, I mean, obviously the internet was around, but it was like always in its infant stages until I felt personally it just randomly boomed.
It did.
And so I'm always curious about like, well then like for me it was like halfway through high school where it fully boomed. Whereas you would have like
it's the start. Yeah, it started and that's when it boomed. Yeah, which is so weird, I guess, when you think about it, because like there was a whole like, even though like the internet started booming sort of in 2010, like we still like went all the way through school using books to write in. But like I just recently did like a placement in a school. All of them had iPads and were on the internet and talking about VPNs. And I was like, you are 5. How do you know any of this? Like crazy.
I remember in year 8 there was one laptop class called the laptop program. And you had to apply for it to get accepted in. And it was like one class out of the year level was a laptop class, and I was in the laptop class. And now the high schools are all like integrated iPad, like it's also intuitive now, so it's like kids are just gonna get more and more like intuitive with like figuring out how things work.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't know either, because
we will never know until like for like another 20 years,
until it happens,
until they grow up, and then we figure out whether they're actually smarter than us or dumber than us.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Well, I always say it's crazy to think, because like this level of interconnection hasn't ever really been. You know what I mean? Like we can instant message people like in 5 seconds, like hundreds of people on the opposite side of the world.
We can call people on the other side of the world for nothing, like, and contact people
as if it's a normal phone call.
Right. So weird.
And I've been seeing, because obviously there's lots of protests and everything happening around the world at the moment. And I saw people talking about, like, I think on Twitter yesterday, it was like like why are so many, what are they called? Why are so many protests happening? And a bunch of people had different theories.
Of course,
but
as Twitter
as
is.
yeah, literally
Yep.
chaos. But something I thought someone made an interesting point of was now like there's always been revolutions and protests and everything all throughout history, but now we're at a point where everyone's so interconnected that you can share and see everything so much all the time. So it like brings this awareness to it. And then I've also kind of been thinking, also saw, which I thought was an interesting point, was people talking about like news fatigue.
Yeah.
And like because there's so much happening,
you get like you just tune out to it. Like people die in America all the time from shooting, and I'm so numb to it because there's so much exposure of it on like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and it's actually really sad because these things that should be so shocking and absolutely devastating are like being overexposed, and it's not. I can't tell if it's a good thing or a bad thing at this point.
Literally, I'm on the same way.
Yeah.
Because it's like good that it's all getting exposed and these things are out there, but then it's like bad because, well, people are just going to start like tuning out to it.
Yeah.
I remember I saw a video of a protest. It wasn't in Hong Kong. I can't exactly remember where it was, but it was a video. It was like a not safe for work video. And it was of protesters and stuff.
Awful.
It was awful. And I remember I like started looking into it like because to figure out what was happening.
Yeah.
But I was like telling someone about it, and the way I was describing it to me ended up making me feel uncomfortable because it was like it was like I was just describing a movie.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And it's like it's like this is real. This is real like insane violence and chaos happening.
Yeah, I know.
And it's just like what? I don't even know.
It's
what
really
to do.
sad. There's a lot of sadness in the world right now.
Yeah.
It's really awful. I think we're really lucky to live in Australia.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to places,
Yeah.
the stuff that's happening and the things that we have, and being able to just go down the street to the supermarket and not really have to worry about, getting shot at or anything. Like, I mean, it sounds like that felt so strange to say, but I mean, how, like you were saying with the American shooting thing, like there's just randomly been an increase. Well, it's probably not randomly, but I just mean we've been seeing more and more of these people just in their houses getting shot.
Did you hear about the person? She came home and left the door open or something, and then someone called the police because she'd left the door open, and then the police literally walked in and shot the person even though they lived there. Like, that is horrendous. They didn't even think. They gave her like 0.4 seconds before they shot the gun.
That's ridiculous.
Which is awful. Like, it's shoot first, ask questions later, and that is not, like, we're all humans.
Literally.
Like, horrendous.
You just think how do these things happen? And then just like one of the main reasons I wanted to do the podcast was to be like, well, everyone's who they are essentially as a result of everything they've experienced, the choices they've made, whatever's happened to them, la-di-da.
Yeah.
And I'm just interested to see like how people get the viewpoints they have.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, like, I would love to have the opportunity one day to like talk to someone from, I don't know, just like an American culture and have like an in-depth conversation like this about like, because I always find having that face-to-face conversation is so much better and easier
I love
than
them
the text
so much better
or
than
whatever.
texting. Even calling, I prefer calling than texting.
Yeah.
And people can't stand that. We live in like a world right now where like people prefer to send a text message than actually like call someone and hear them. I don't know, like they like to interpret the words better, whereas like people talking will tell the honest truth because they don't have enough time to think about the answer. I hate people who hide behind text. I hate it. I just want to talk to you. And
well, especially when it comes to things like serious things. I really don't want to talk about it over text message because like you said, it's all about how you interpret the text message that you are receiving, because everyone has their own little language they use when they're texting. Like some people don't use grammar, some people don't use full stops.
That's right. Some people don't use emojis.
Yeah, so and all these so the tone you might be talking in comes across completely different just because of whatever reason.
Yeah, which is awful.
It's so hard because then things get like misconstrued, or like things can be taken the wrong way. It's like, let's just like sit down, have a conversation. But in saying that, I'm going to expose myself right now.
Love that. Yeah.
If I have had something serious to say to someone, and I would be like, I should send them a message, but I would prefer to talk to them in person.
Yeah.
I've like been guilty of just like leaving it unresolved.
Yeah.
Because
talking to them in person it's very hard.
Yeah.
Because people don't know how to do that anymore, especially with the internet and everything that's happened. It's really hard to sit there and also be like face to face with the other person's emotions.
Yeah.
As well as your own, and then you have to process a lot. Like, it's a lot to talk to someone else
Yeah.
and like process. So it's easier to like sit there and type it or whatever. But if you have the choice, I totally understand why you would like leave it and be like, oh, maybe it'll fix itself.
Yeah. It's like, it's weird. It's hard. And but then again, that like kind of just goes into the like this whole social media thing we've been talking about. Like, you get people now growing up and going through like the teenage years all through like
which is crazy.
online stuff. Like, it would be so much. I feel like, I mean, I know, because I remember like in high school with the internet and stuff, there were obviously those like Tumblr was like, I'm sure Tumblr's the same as it was but different. But
There's
I remember
no porn now.
So what's the point? No.
What the heck's the point?
But I remember like Tumblr, you'd go there and it would just be like, you'd just be feeding each other unhappy thoughts.
That's
you know what
true.
I mean?
I have my old Tumblr and it looks
Oh my
awful.
gosh.
It's literally like an aesthetic Tumblr. But like, it'll be just like in the middle of all of the pictures, just like a paragraph about why I'm upset.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be. I deleted mine because
It's still there, it exists.
I would always. Oh, it's gonna sound so like wanky.
Love it.
I would
It's
like
fine.
Google myself sometimes and like see what would pop up, and sometimes the Tumblrs would pop up and I was like, I cannot have that.
This cannot be
And
here.
I was like, I'm frustrated myself now because I wish I had like screenshotted them or something, or just like
I'm so glad I
changed
kept
them
mine.
all,
Yeah.
just as like as like a little like window into like that time.
Yeah.
But no, I was always like too cringy for me. I was like, I can't have that still out there in the world.
Yeah, I know what
Just
you
like,
mean.
because everything's so much like, I mean, I'm probably still as dramatic, but everything felt so much. I felt like I took everything so much more dramatically
Same.
in high school. It's like the biggest deals, and it's like so much wasted energy and emotion
same.
on being like, I don't even know, just like
No, I
not
get
knowing.
it.
Like, such a weird time.
Yeah, it was so weird.
I remember in like year 7, for me it was 07. I mean, there was like what like MSN Messenger and stuff.
Yeah. I wasn't allowed MSN. My first email, in case anyone wants to hit me up, is JG_Twilight.
You were obsessed with the
was-
cultural phenomenon.
Okay, so
Twilight?
this is so funny, right? So all of my friends in like primary school in like year 6, they all had like an obsession. So one friend was obsessed with the Jonas Brothers.
Oh my gosh.
And then another was obsessed with Miley Cyrus. And I was like, I want to be obsessed with something. So I ended up getting into Twilight. I really liked reading. I could thick books from like when I was like in grade 2. I'd be reading them and I was obsessed. I loved it,
Oh my
especially
gosh.
Breaking Dawn, because there was a sex scene.
Oh,
Anyway, and I lived
scandal.
for it. And I was so Team Edward. You ask my parents, I had like my whole wall was covered in Edward posters, and my cousins would come and stay, and they'd like sleep in my bedroom, and I'd be like, "You need to take down the posters." Edward Cullen is staring at me at midnight. I hate it.
You're like, I love it.
I love him, and I used to have this big poster,
Oh my
like a big one
gosh.
of him, and it was on the top bunk. And so like sometimes I just sleep on the top bunk and like give him a little kiss.
Oh my gosh.
It was
That's amazing.
awful.
That's
It was
amazing.
awful. Yeah, but I had to be obsessed with something. I don't know. I was just like, I need to like get into something. And like we went on camp and they got these dog tags because it was a Melbourne camp.
Yeah. Oh,
And they
yeah.
got these dog tags, and one said OJD, obsessive Jonas disorder. And I was like, oh my god, I want to be obsessed like that too. But I used to love it. I really did. But
Yeah.
I've slowly got into different obsessions as I've gotten older.
Yes.
So now I'm into more chaotic stuff. Like the Eurovision Song Contest.
What a segue.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah. Oh, actually, before... Yeah, it's okay. So, Jade is obviously, like we've been saying, actor, actress, personality, star.
Oh, wow.
You are.
Star in the making.
Star in the making.
Yeah.
And so you've went and worked at Eurovision as press. So this is really exciting. I got into it because I joined a fan club. So each country in Europe and Australia obviously has like the official Eurovision club. And so I joined it in 2018 or maybe 2017. And it was like a good way to like connect with actual fans, because I was just like having this like little obsession on my own, and I was like, I'm so sick of trying to like convince my friends that this is a good show. Yeah. So I ended up joining that, and then I submitted a video for a competition, and it was like me lip syncing to like the winner of 2018, and they loved it, and they asked me to come and help them film an interview with a contestant in like the national final for Australia. And then they really liked my stuff, and then eventually it just turned into me like going along and like taking photos and filming and doing all of this stuff. And then I managed to like get approved by SBS and the European Broadcasting Union to go and be press for Eurovision. That's amazing.
And so I ended up there taking photos. I've got so many photos on my camera. And like as a fan it's great, but it was just really like as an artist it was even better, because I'd taken like really good shots that I was proud of. And it was just like it made the experience of going to Eurovision like so much better. And I had access to like the red carpet and rehearsals and like all of this stuff, and I was there like every single day doing things.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really fun.
It's just so good, because like you say, what an amazing experience, and then even the like professional opportunity to be like a part of that whole process. Amazing. How good is that?
Yeah, it felt really good. And like, I'm by no means a professional photographer, but it was still something to be really proud of, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And how long was it for?
This is a very hard question, because Eurovision is technically like an all year round thing. It takes a very long time to actually get to May when it usually happens. But usually like the process is like the winner happens, and then that country is confirmed to host. Then they have to like in the next like 2 months, 3 months have to pick a host city, and then they have to pick a slogan, and then they from like usually. With 2 have been announced already for next year, but like 2 contestants have already been announced to compete, and they had like there's 40 or so countries that compete. So the actual event probably like by the time you set it up and go in and press start going and rehearsals start happening, it's about 2 weeks. But there's like a total of like 3 live shows, if that makes sense. So it's very confusing.
Well, it made me kind of think of the Olympics, of being like, well, I mean, I suppose all the athletes in their countries would they have to like, you know, work for it and then like apply and do, I don't know the process. But you know, like then get to that, okay, you're on the Olympic team, and then it's all about that build up to the actual Olympics, which is all, you know, I mean, I can't imagine organizing that. All
it's
the different
a huge
countries.
Scale thing, and like all of the different countries help fund it as well. And so like there's 5 countries that automatically go through to the grand final, and they give like the biggest amount of funding, which is like UK, Spain, Italy, Germany, France. Right? And then whoever hosts that year, so the winner from the last year, they also get an automatic qualify into the grand final, because I mean most of the time they don't win again for like 2 times in a row. So that usually happens, and so there's so much money going in from like public broadcasters like everywhere. So it's funded a lot, but it also brings tourism to like the country. So like winning, like there's no like prize, but you get the chance to like have thousands and thousands of people like rock up into this city and like, you know, go book hotels, like go on sightseeing things. So like
a promotional
whole
thing.
So for a whole year that city is on showcase.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
This is probably a broad question.
That's okay. It's such a big competition. There's no such thing as broad questions.
What would just say your daily process be? And I can imagine each day would probably be different.
But when doing press?
Yeah. Like, what would the whole thing like?
Well, I would wake up hungover.
There's lots of partying.
Yeah. So I'd go and have a shower and then take a like public transport or like a taxi to the arena. And then it was in Israel this year, so it was pretty intense. I had really intense security because they're only like an hour's drive from the Gaza Strip. Oh, wow. So they had like really intense security. I had to like show them, like my bag had to go through airport security basically every day. Wow. And then they would like, I had to like tap on my card to get through gates, and then they'd like buzz me and check that I haven't got anything hidden. And so I'd show up, and then I met my team at the event, and we all had different things to do. So some people would sit in the press area, and they would get like a live TV feed, so they would see what it looks like on TV, because it's essentially a TV production. Yeah. But I would go in with a group of people with my camera, and I would take photos every day of rehearsals, and it would just be that all day. And like, it's very interesting because each country, they have 2 rehearsals, and each rehearsal is 30 minutes long. So it's about you can do like your song 3 times and then fix anything in between. That's like camera angles, staging, anything. Yeah. And so in that 3 times, I would like watch it once just because I wanted to see it. The second time, like take photos on my phone because I'm a fan. And the third time, like take photos of like the final product, like on my camera. Yeah. But it's very interesting in the 2 rehearsals leading up to like their performance in the semi-finals or whatever, how much it changes. Like they like realize that something didn't work, or like it's really interesting.
That would be so cool.
Yeah. So like the winner this year, they had a lot of problems. They had like a lot of stuff happening. They had this glowing orb, and it had to like come down from the ceiling. And for some reason they couldn't make it work. Like visually, it was just too bright or something. And they tried different things, like putting it on top of the piano and leaving it there. And they ended up going with the original thing. Or this year, Malta had this like box, and they were like in the box, and it was like minimizing the stage and making it like they were in a living room, but it was changing all the time, and the camera angles had to be so precise, and the projections. But when they did it, it didn't work. So they trialed a version where they put the projections on the very back of the screen, and it didn't look the same. Like, it was a completely different feeling, because on one hand you've got a tiny room, but on the other hand you've got the biggest LCD like screen you've ever seen. So it's really interesting seeing where they change and what they decide to end up doing, and like fixing things that they're not happy with, and really cool.
Well, especially because when you get into that situation of like actually putting the production on, it's like one thing to be like, okay, this is like what it's gonna do, what it's gonna look like, but then we actually get in that environment with like it's in a stadium.
Yeah, so, like, you're in an arena.
That's translating. Like, I just can't imagine like translating that.
Yeah.
And then like, I just literally can't imagine everything going like perfect straight away.
No, and it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Most of the time they have errors, and they have to fix them, and they'll have microphone errors or in-ear errors, and they'll have to stop like mid-performance, like during rehearsal. And it was just really interesting to see. And I've had my own experiences like in an arena singing before, and so I could see like most of the artists that I've been following for a year like get really frustrated because it wasn't going well, and they're trying to stay calm, but it's so stressful because your whole country is on the line. Like, and some countries get really upset like if they don't qualify for the grand final, and like it could just lead to like a whole country pulling out of the contest for a little while because they just are really bad losers. So there's like a lot of pressure, I guess.
Or like backstage politics sort of.
Oh, there's
stuff
so many politics. So there's just a lot of pressure, especially if it's like a country who does well all the time. Or someone that returns, like comes back to the competition and did really well, so it has to do well. And
it's so stressful, and it's like screened like everywhere.
It's streamed on YouTube to 200 million people, the grand final. That's how many people tune in.
That's wild.
Which is crazy. So they have an arena full of people that travel there to watch it. Usually those tickets sell out, and then they have people who traveled to the country anyway in hopes of getting tickets, but end up at the village watching it with a whole group of people on a big TV. And then there's just the people worldwide that watch it, which is really cool.
Wow. I can imagine like I can imagine though people wanting to go, because you would be seeing this huge like you said, like everyone's trying to be their very best at like performing, and like what an interesting like blend, because I can imagine a lot of them would sing in their native languages as well.
It's
right?
so cool. That's actually one of my favorite things because most people ask me like, how do you get into it? Because like they sing in their native tongues and they have their own style of music in that country or whatever. But this is such a bad example and people are gonna kill me. But you know when you're like playing The Sims and they like there's like a song in the background and it, like you just like after hours of playing you're like Zubata. It's not I mean it is about what they're saying in their songs, but it's also about the music, and that's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
Because the whole like premise of the competition was to actually bring war-torn Europe back together because
Wow.
like it started in 1956. And like only a handful of countries competed, but it was literally like, how can we repair Europe after like all of this war has stricken like our continent? Like, what can we do? And so it literally came together through music, which is awesome.
That's amazing.
Right?
Actually,
yeah. There's just a lot of different parts of Europe. Europe is so big, like, and there's just so many different cultural parts of Europe that like can be interpreted through music. And so like some countries will very often send songs that are like the style is very their own country. It's very nationalist.
Yeah.
So some like a place like Georgia or Albania usually send something that is quite ethnic, I guess. And they're the songs that people fall in love with too. Like you think, oh, that's not a modern pop song, they're not going to get points. You would be very surprised to see how well like some of these countries do. And for myself anyway, like I feel like I've expanded my music taste because I mean I've already had like a wide range of like genres that I'm into anyway.
Yeah.
But it really like helped me like connect to the country and their style more, like really appreciate like the European background of music as well. Yeah, I don't know. It's just really fun, different genres. You will see like Albania competing with an ethnic bop compared to like Iceland sending pure rock, compared to the Netherlands sending like something you would hear on the radio. Like it's all of these songs together, and it's really hard to like rank them.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because the songs all have to be released by March. So like you have a whole like 2 months where you know every single song. And like people slowly like change their opinions about the songs based on like what people say online and like talking to other people. And it's so funny. There's this song from this year, Georgia. It's such a nationalist song. And the first second I heard it, I was like, this is trash. Nope, in the bin. And by the time that I left Tel Aviv, I was so in love with it and crushed that it was like eliminated. I was like, no, Georgia's robbed. Like, yeah, it's really interesting.
I would love to like just hear, because I can imagine, like you say, like especially with the countries who are trying to be like so nationalistic and proud, to hear their genres that we wouldn't even know about unless you like outwardly looked for it. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, different instruments, different way, even like not even so much like lyrically. Musically,
but just so like different. Musically. Like we have like very strict rules on what Western music is, but it's really interesting listening to European music because they don't necessarily follow it, and it's such an evolution of music that we just don't have in like the UK, America, Australia. We have very set chords and things, and they don't have to follow the sort of the music rules. It's really cool. Yeah. I
was just thinking. So you like, obviously we've been talking about like your theater and everything, but so music is a big part of your life as well, right? Yeah,
huge. I started getting into it when I was like 5. Yeah. And I was really into Australian Idol. And
amazing.
I was a very early days Shannon Knoll stan. And I used to love him, and my mum bought him the CD, like the CD that he released, and I would play it on my CD player, and like I'd play What About Me when I was in a bad mood.
God, that's so funny.
Yeah, I was this little 6-year-old who got up at her first talent quest, like really young, and I was like, I'm gonna sing and I'm gonna win. And I just got really into singing and dancing like from a really early age, and it got to the point where like my parents could see that I was really leaning towards that, and that was what was making me happy, and I could really like thrive from it. And so they would like take me to dance classes, and I did something crazy like 20 hours a week of dance. Like I was doing tap and ballet. And I would travel to go and do it as well. So every Saturday I would rehearse for hours, like with this ballet teacher, like trying to go through all my exams and making my way to point. And then I'd tap as well and do dance concerts. And then one day I realized that music, like I could dance, but music was so much more important to me, and I really wanted to like be a singer. And so I ended up abandoning music because I committed to something in Melbourne called the State School Spectacular. And it was like this big show where it's 3,000 people, and you could, perform in an arena in like with an orchestra with dancers and like costumes. And I was really like part of the choir, and I did the choir for 1 year and was a backing vocalist for three. Yeah, I think so. And then I ended up being a soloist. So like I was really into it.
Yeah.
But also like because I've been part of the choir, we got asked to sing for the Queen and Prince Philip when they came to visit.
That's so
and
cool.
Charles and Camilla the next year. And so it was really cool. So I've always done like my parents, I have to like thank them so much, because like I don't know any other people's parents that would drive 2 hours one direction like every weekend to Melbourne and back, and I would do it Saturday and Sunday, like when I should be studying. I'm like, nope, I'm gonna go to the city and sing with my friends. So I would do all of that instead.
That's so lovely though. Amazing for them. Was their attitude just always like, we want you to do what makes you happy? Or
absolutely. Like they could see that music was like what made me live a little. And so like as long as I was passing school, like they would let me do like anything that I want, like my heart wanted. And I can't even imagine how tired they would have been. Like holy crap, like it was a lot of traveling. And so I was basically like getting all my hours like up driving to Melbourne and back. True. And doing a lot of that. And I ended up learning how to use my public transport on my own, because my parents one day were like, you're old enough to take the bus, which is very fair. So I ended up sort of like growing up a lot, because I'd spent a lot of time on the bus traveling to Melbourne and doing all of these shows, and it was so worth it. Like I really got a lot of professional experience out of it, I guess, because I got to sing in an arena, so you had to know how to hold a mic, and you had to know like how to use your in-ears and what you needed to hear. And they taught it. They did interview training with us too, which was awesome. Like so something that like, wow, I'm so grateful I had. And then from that, I did a year of teaching after I graduated high school. And then I was like, no, this like, because I didn't get into music theatre, I was like, I have to do something, because I'm not a person that likes to sit there. Yeah. Because now that I've done like my whole life, I was like, I have to do I have to do something. And so I did this teaching degree, and then obviously did the show with Charlotte and yourself and everyone. And at the end of it, I was like, I'm a singer, I'm a performer, I have to do this. And then I got into a music theatre degree.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I finished that at the end of last year. So, which is sad, because I wish I was doing it forever.
I love when people whose like passions, like main passions, are in like being creative and stuff, just like go like full steam ahead for it. You know what I mean? Because
I think I would regret my life if I didn't go for it though, because that's so important. Like if you're passionate about something, like you always end up chasing it. So I like, if I'm not doing stuff, I get very bored very quickly. Yeah. There was like a good, I don't know, like after I got back from Israel, there was like a good 2-3 weeks where like I didn't have a job at the time, and I was just sitting there and I was like, wow, I'm so bored. I have to do something with my life. And like I can't do that. I can't just sit there. I'm just such a busy person.
That's good though. It's like, I mean, you obviously then you like understand yourself, you know what I mean? Like you have a clear idea of, well, this is what I know I need to do, or like I have to do to live, sort of thing. Like, I mean, sounds dramatic, but no, like literally.
I'm a very emotional person, so like if I feel sad, I'll feel it very deep in my soul, and that's like, I know that I need to change something, and I need to find something that's gonna make me happy. And I don't know, like I'm just very like honest and upfront person with myself. Like I know what I want and what I don't want.
Well, it's good. That's a great thing to have, because honestly, not a lot of people have that level of self-awareness.
Tell me about it.
They just don't.
They just don't. Long story short.
But and so, because you've done your musical theatre and stuff, and
Yeah.
obviously like that's music and acting.
Yeah.
But since you've had your Eurovision experience,
Yeah.
and that's more of like the press side and all that,
Yeah.
do you think you would ever like lean into that more like production, like organizing Eurovision-y sort of stuff, or do you think
Yeah.
you would rather stay more so in that acting, or like both of them? I mean,
Yeah, it's such a hard question,
Yeah.
and it's something that like I've juggled up my whole life. My dad, like obviously came from like he was a carpenter from a very young age, and his dad always told him like you need to like find a trade, which is hard for a performer because performers don't get employed. Like it's really hard. People often ask you to work for free. It's so fun, but it's paid employment is really hard to chase, especially if you don't have an in. I tried teaching. It didn't work. Didn't happen. Couldn't work with kids that weren't as passionate. So I abandoned that.
Is that just like a drama schooly sort of thing?
I was gonna open a drama school. I was gonna like do a master's. I tried all of that.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad I tried them, even though I feel like a failure for abandoning them. I'm glad that I did it.
Yeah. Well, now you know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if anyone asks, you can be like, "Look, I tried it out."
Yeah, at
Not
least
for
I
me.
tried.
Exactly. Well, at least you tried. What's the least you could do is try.
You know, my dad also always said to me like, "You need to trade as well." Like I think the idea of being unemployed sort of scares him, which I totally understand because I'm one of his children. So he's like probably like, ugh. So I was thinking like I want to work for a little bit and save some money, but I really want to do like maybe like a journalism course. Like I feel like I've got an in there, like whether it's like editing or filming or being on camera and doing journalism or something. I feel like that's a good in, but I don't want to like I'm so scared I'm gonna like go into that and give up on performing, which I don't want to do. So like this year I tried out for The Voice because it's a really good not even for the fame, I just want an into music. And a lot of people that this is just like me living my big dreams, but a lot of people that compete at Eurovision actually come through like X Factor, The Voice, like all of these like different shows in Europe. And I was like, you know what, like I would have never considered going on a show like that, but I have to try if that's what I want to do, and I'm passionate about it. And going to Eurovision is such a big dream, and it's almost impossible, but everything else that I've done in life has almost been impossible, and I've managed to do it. So I just never want to like close off any options. I'll always try to find a way to do the impossible.
And well, look, you got one life.
That's exactly right.
Like I mean, like I would say this because I've literally been thinking so much about this lately.
I love that.
It's like figuring out what I'm doing in my life.
Yeah.
But I mean, literally, you only have one. If you want to try it or do something, just go for it. The worst thing that could happen is the ice caps melt. And guess what? That's already happening.
So we're gonna die in 20 years, so just do it.
Exactly. I mean, this like not to sound like. I mean, I understand we're like laughing, but at the same time, seriously, like the world is slowly ending.
Yeah.
What may as well do whatever you can.
Well, I imagine like if I sit on a porch when I'm 70 years old and I regret stuff, I didn't live right. And that's why I'm like, you know what, I'll just try it. And most, like all of my friends are so supportive.
That's great.
Like, even though like I have like these crazy like ideas, they're like, do it, go for it, try it, see how you go.
Yeah.
And whether I fail or whether I succeed, like at least I have like a really good group of people that support me. And I think as an artist that's really important too, because sometimes it's really hard, especially if you get rejection after rejection in things. It's really hard to like stay positive, but like there's people that see your worth out there, and sometimes it's not about like how well you performed, it's just the circumstances of things. And so I think your friends are really important.
No, totally, especially like you're preaching literally exactly what you said though. Like it's so easy when things are creative because that's usually when it's most personal, like you're trying to put yourself out there in whatever way. And so when you do get that rejection, which might have not even been like, maybe you just weren't the perfect fit, or like, you know what I mean? But it's
literally
easy to
like that. So when I did The Voice, they loved my voice and they said to me like, you have a great voice, it's just your story doesn't work this year.
Oh my gosh,
it's literally things like that.
And that's a producer, like that's just they're making a TV show as
Of
well in
course,
the end.
yeah.
It's like, that's so, I mean, at least they were upfront about it.
Yeah,
like,
there's 500, like they picked 500 of us out of 4,000 that applied to
Wow.
come and sing to them live. And they literally like put us in a room, well, not all 500, but like 20 of us in a room and
Yeah.
said, we know that you can sing. It's not about whether you can sing now.
that's
So,
right,
yeah, which is really
That's
interesting.
so interesting. What and like those things? What interesting little like glimpses into like the
Yeah.
background of production, because the production of TV show, like
Yeah.
I love doing like behind the scenes stills. Like that's how I
Yeah.
did the play and like some short films, and like, but just seeing that whole process is like one of the things I really like about it.
Yeah.
And because it's like reality show and competition shows are never really reality
No.
competition shows. You know, it's all like aimed for it's all entertainment, being
Yeah.
a television thing.
Yeah.
But I think seeing that and being able to be within that process is
Yeah.
like super interesting.
It was fascinating. They had 5 rooms running at once.
Wow.
So 5 audition
Oh
rooms.
my gosh.
And there was 2 producers in each of them. So that's how many people work on the show, first
Yeah.
of all. Enough for like 10 people to audition 20 people at once.
Yeah.
And it was just really interesting because they just people, and they really just wanted to get to know you. And in the end, like they have to come together and like collude about who they want to pick. And they only like they did say to us, we could pick all of you if we wanted, but it just doesn't work out that way. And like they have a TV show to produce, and usually it's like a sub story or two, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That makes good TV. I get it.
They need to get viewers. They need to like make the higher ups happy and want to
Yeah.
put it out there. And then you got like advertise. It's just like you say. It's just all these like stupid
Yeah.
little. I mean, well, not stupid, but they're just the little pieces that
Yeah.
end up making this bigger picture.
And sometimes it's not your time. And it's just the way that the universe, if the universe wanted you to be there and to go further, it would have happened.
Yeah.
So in saying that, I'm like, that doesn't mean I'm going to give up on
Yeah.
anything.
No.
Yeah.
No. Definitely not.
No way.
You would. I can already like see you on television anyway. As oh my gosh, for some reason I just imagined you as like, and like I have a secret dream that I would love to be a weatherman for
Oh my
whatever reason. I just
Yeah.
think it'd be so fun. I can see you as a like this like hilariously amazing weather woman that just like everyone loves.
Oh my god.
You know
that's so
how
nice.
like sometimes the weather people are like the real popular
Well,
ones.
I don't know if you like this doesn't happen in here, but do you have Prime? Like, are you further off enough like out of the city to have Prime, like instead of Channel 7? When I go home, it's really funny. We have like a country like TV program instead of Channel 7. It's the same
Oh,
thing,
yeah, 7
but
Prime,
you have
sorry,
like
yeah.
7 Prime.
So it's like digital TV.
Yeah.
channels,
So except it's like the country version where they have like country like news anchors, and they tell the
I
like
don't know if we've
local
seen
news.
that. Probably not.
Anyway, there's this one guy, and his name's Daniel Gibson. Anyway, he is literally the highlight of my day.
That's
He
amazing.
comes on in the middle of like Home and Away, and he tells the news, and he'll just be like, "Oh, bugger, it's raining."
Oh my
He's
god.
like, it's a bit of a scorcher out there today. It's the funniest thing. I go home and I literally sit there and I like tell everyone to shut up when he comes on the TV. I'm like, he's the best
I
guy.
love that so much. I love that.
And like me, this is how I would tell him. It's
Yes.
such a daggy dad, but it's so funny when they ask him to like actually read the news. He's so serious. I'm like, no, go back to telling the weather.
Their news persona.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I hear you. But I don't know. I feel like I'm going to end up on TV one day. I really want to do
love
Big
that.
Brother. I've always
my
wanted to do
gosh.
Big Brother. I've been like, I had my Twitter account originally to literally just tweet about Big Brother stuff. And I would like tweet the people being
That's
like,
amazing.
I'm so glad you're out of the house. Are you going to a Royal Melbourne show this Saturday? I might be there. And I'm really looking forward to seeing
Oh
you.
my god.
And they'd be like, they're just like normal humans. I
Yeah.
feel like I want to do that one day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that so much. I can literally just see you on there
That's
as
so
well.
nice.
You'd be entertaining.
I'm gonna
I would
manifest
wanna
it.
watch
It's
you.
gonna happen.
Yeah, it'll happen.
It's happening.
It's in the works right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah.
Tweet people.
I love that. That's so funny.
I love Twitter.
Did you apply for Gogglebox?
No,
Did you
I
see
did.
that there was that? You
I
should have
did
applied
it.
for that.
I feel like I would have been very entertaining.
Oh, Yes. And the girl on that is
No,
on
The
The
Bachelorette.
Bachelorette.
Do you watch
so
it?
Random. No.
Oh my god, you need to,
But
because the men are so chaotic. I love straight people.
I saw a YouTube video of like an Australian commenter, but he did it all about The Bachelorette, and had the episode where it was the Queensland politician
Oh my
from
god, don't
Noosa,
even start me.
and he was just like he's awful.
He was so terrible. Like, it actually made me furious as a woman, because he was just so... I was like, this has to be fake.
Literally, my thing was I was cringing because I just could not imagine how anyone in their right mind in 2019 would think it's appropriate to act like that at all.
It was literally
and then
awful.
on television as well.
As a politician.
As a politician.
A public figure.
On The Bachelorette, one of the
Yeah.
shows like people are so obsessed with.
And not only was he like being an asshole to Angie, but he was like treating the crew like that.
Yes.
Why didn't the crew be like, he needs to go?
The producer, like
Kick
there
him
was,
out.
she was interviewing him, and he was like gross
Yeah.
to her.
Yeah, I
and he was
know.
just like, she was just like, oh, that's a bit inappropriate, or she's like, oh, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
and it was just like,
I
and
can't believe the producers let that happen. But I'm really glad that they actually aired it and they chose to air it, because as confronting as it is, it's really good to like have something on public TV that proves that like men like don't know how to act around women, and that's awful. Like, it's just an awful situation.
yeah, well, it was so hard and cringy to watch
Yeah.
and uncomfortable. Well, I mean, it just goes like kind of hand in hand with the Me Too movement thing,
Yeah.
and just like how many things are actually happening that people aren't aware of
Yeah,
until
that
they
people
like
don't talk about.
yeah.
Yeah. And,
Well,
like, it's just a really sad reality.
Yeah.
Like, it's terrible. And the amount of people that like obviously don't come forward and say anything because it's either like too much, like too personal, or it's like really hard to talk about. Like, it's awful. And I'm in saying that, like we were saying earlier, there's almost an overexposure to it again.
yeah.
Because I'm so proud of women who come forward and tell their story and say like that has happened to them. But it's gotten to the point where even like people that we know are saying things like, wow, there's just so much, like it's like too much, like maybe they cried wolf, like maybe it didn't happen. It's gotten to the point, and that, oh my god, like that's terrible.
Yeah.
If people say that something like that happened to them, you have to take it seriously. But then in saying that, people can take advantage of it again, and oh my god,
And
it's
that-
just
yeah.
so hard.
It's like, you're so right, because it's like these things, you want people to feel comfortable and able to come out and say these things.
Yeah.
But then you also got those shitty people who take advantage of a situation
Yeah.
and do it and will like make false accusations for like whatever reason,
Yeah.
it's hard because that isn't always the case. That's like a small thing,
Yeah.
but because people started acting that way, it like gives people this idea that they can then be like, oh well, they've lied, so now like why
Yeah.
can't, you know what I mean? Like, it's all just like a big shitstorm of like awfulness.
Yeah. And it's gotten to the point where people who have experienced something like that now feel that they can't come forward and say things. It's like almost had like a reverse effect on some people. Like, maybe it's shameful to talk about. Maybe people will think I'm attention seeking. Like, and it's, yeah, I have constantly like thought about this, and it's just a really hard thing for people to take seriously. And you also don't want to like put that information out there and people feel like the need to make comments on it, or
It's all strange, especially then when it's on like an online platform,
Yeah.
and there's that monitor screen that like is the buffer, so
Yeah.
people are like, oh, I can say whatever I want, and it's like
Oh.
you're dealing with a real person. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I was just wondering if you're okay with talking about
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but I was just thinking, like, you are essentially going into like the entertainment business
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff like that. What has been your what's been your perspective on everything that's been happening?
It's really interesting actually, because I have my own story in the Me Too sort of scenario. which is a really messed up story. But like I was with a group of people and something happened, and it took me like a little while to get over it. That was around the time of Black Rock, actually.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just really hard to get over that, and I can't, like, this situation that I was in was in a social situation and actually wasn't in a theatre situation, but I feel so much empathy for people that have it happen in a theatre situation. There was a scenario where somebody that I know had been touched inappropriately on stage in a scene where it was like they were like in bed, like pretending to like sleep together, or they were nude or something like that. And like, honestly, that is such a breach of trust, especially from a theatre perspective, because you are supposed to be putting yourself aside and like pretending to be another character and express these emotions, and somebody is abusing the art to use their own, like, to gain something or to like do something that they couldn't do as a person. And I think there is nothing more devastating than someone abusing the stage to do something like that, especially when you have to trust the other person. Like you see theatre where people like kiss and they pretend to sleep together and things like that, and like that is such a hard thing to do as an actor. Like put yourself aside and pretend to be somebody else and like be attracted to somebody else. And so I personally, like, it's so messed up.
It's a lot.
Yeah, when people do that. And I don't know if you like know about the Craig McLachlan case. So he was on Rocky Horror Show, and he like made some inappropriate comments and movements to cast members, and the cast members came forward after like I don't know how long had passed, and then he ended up getting kicked off the tour and is now like currently in the middle of court proceedings and things like that. But there's a lot of people, because it's Craig McLachlan, are saying that it didn't happen. He's just a fun guy, like blah 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 blah. And so it's a really delicate situation. I think in a theatre you have to believe. You have to believe someone who's really concerned. That's their job.
Yeah.
It's like going to work like at a supermarket and someone touches you inappropriately. It's like that.
Everybody has the potential to do the worst things. And
that's the worst thing, because in my own like story, I won't go into too many details, but it was like somebody that I trusted, and like I would never have expected that to happen to me.
Yeah.
With that person, but it did, and you trust someone, and then and then all of a sudden it's not good.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and a lot of people don't feel like they can come forward because they are so connected with that person that they almost like, it's like a very internal thing where you're like, well, maybe it was my fault. Like it's like someone you're close with, so you like there's like another layer on top of that, I guess. So yeah, it's really hard, and I can only imagine how much more heightened it becomes, especially in a work environment like the theatre. So that's so much worse.
And especially and when it does like that whole like power dynamic, which exists in like everywhere, in different ways, but especially within like the theatre world, it's like,
and then that person has to go on stage every night too. They have to like theatre is like putting yourself aside for 3 hours and being somebody else and telling a story. That just makes it so much harder when you're carrying this thing about this other person. Like, so difficult.
Especially if you're working directly with them and stuff. I can't.
Yeah. It's awful.
It's pretty awful. It's like, I remember I was talking to someone and they were just saying how it's awful that it's all been happening. But that at the same time, it's good that now people are becoming at least more comfortable trying to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because keeping those things inside, it's bad for the soul.
So bad for the soul.
It's hard, and it's not fair for the person living with it.
No. It's I'm not saying you have to find a way to cope, but talking about it definitely helps in some way. And I know I just said like there's like always that thing where there's overposting and things like that, but like in my own experience, like the way I got through it was talking about it with my friends, and they were so understanding, and like sometimes I just couldn't like function properly, and they would like, and they knew everything going on, and like that was already 100% like better
Yeah.
because
Well, you got that you've got like a safety net of people around you.
and that was during the time like Black Rock, like it was so busy. I was
Yeah.
filming all the rehearsals and taking shots, and it was a lot.
Yeah.
And because Black Rock is such a confronting show as well, and it has a moment like that in there.
Yeah.
And I already knew the play so well, so I guess it didn't affect me as much, but it did, like, it was mentally draining, like coming to rehearsals and pretending everything was okay. And like I had a few friends in the cast who like could see that I wasn't doing okay and would take me out to have a breather or a cry or whatever I needed to do. And yeah, it's hard for people to like live life with something like that carrying over them, especially like sleeping. Like going to sleep every night knowing that happened to you, and like awful. It's really like a hard experience.
Getting super deep right now. We'll see what happens. I remember it was in 2014. I had like a bad time with someone, and it like sort of like you're saying, like having that, it's just that lingering thing. I remember one time I was watching Law and Order, and there was just like an episode that was kind of similar to like what had happened, and it was just like this wave of just like and then I don't even know where
it's really complicated. Insane. And then like I don't know, like getting comfortable with yourself again, like obviously like being in that position again, like it's really interesting.
Well, especially because a lot of the time I like so just say you're in traffic and someone cuts you off and it's a bad day, and in moments like that you can either let it ruin your day, or like move on. And I would always try to be like, it's fine. Like I would just be like, they're not even thinking about how they cut me off and how I'm feeling. And that's like just made me think similarly to like when stuff like bad stuff happens. It's hard because it's like do they even realize the extent of like their actions? You know what I mean?
People don't realize, especially like and I'm sure you know, like at that like time, it's really like if something doesn't go right, it's really hard to not let it get to you. And like it would be as simple as someone being like, oh, I can't hang out with you today, and like I would just like sit at home and like be a mess. And it's as small as that. And like I know it's like not their fault, like that obviously like something came up, but you have to like be like, yeah, that's okay, and like not tell them that like your soul is like crushing right now and you're having the worst time. And especially like because I'm such a bubbly and outgoing person, like it's really hard to like, I guess it's confronting for people to see me upset, because I'm never normally like that. So it's and you obviously like don't want to give your friends that perspective of you either. Like you want to be happy for them and like have good times with them. So it's really hard process.
Have you sort of always kind of like like had difficulty with like expressing sadness a lot? Or
well, as I said, like when I was little, I was like such a crybaby.
Oh yeah.
So I was like really easy to cry, but it gotten to the point where I think now I'm quite like, I know that if I'm upset, my parents will always be there to listen to me. And so I always feel bad. It's really funny, like if my friends ever talk about like what happens when I'm upset, they just know I apologize a heap. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like sobbing. I'm so sorry. And they're like, stop apologizing. You're a person. Of course you're upset. Like you're not always happy. And so like, I always like end up apologizing for being sad.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't.
No, you're right.
I shouldn't.
No, you shouldn't be.
I'm a human.
Yeah.
Like I know I'm like seeing that going all the time, but I have feelings too. I have a big heart.
Yeah.
It feels a lot of emotions, and it's normal for everyone to feel sad at some point. And I think I'm worried because I don't want to seem like a victim of anything. Like at any point of being sad, like I don't want to, and sometimes if I'm like upset about something silly, like I don't want to feel like, like
it's not a justified like
sad.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't know why I'm sad. Yeah.
I remember for years, like I never used to, in primary school and like the first like majority of high school, I could never like leave home. Like I
Yeah.
could never go on school camps or stuff like that. I was just too anxious.
Oh.
And like I remember once Dad came on grade 6 camp with like for a day,
Yeah.
and we had just had lunch, and he was walking back to his car. And I thought that he was going home, but he just wasn't saying goodbye. So
Yeah.
I was like crying and like ran after him, being like, "Dad, where are you going?" He's like, "I'm just getting something out of the car. Like, what's the matter?" And I was
would
just
so
like,
do that.
"What?"
Yeah.
But I feel like people knew I was upset, but I never felt comfortable enough to talk about it.
Yeah.
But then I realized like it was surf camp. It was like year 9 or 8, I think.
Surf
I
camp.
know. I finally had just like said to a friend of being like, "This is like what's happening. Like I'm just anxious. Like I don't properly understand yet why." You know what I mean? Just like it's just happens. And as soon as I like said it, it was like this wave of like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, like
Yeah.
I'm not suffering in this alone." And I was like, did it take me this long to realize that not keeping the pain
Yeah.
to yourself is like beneficial? Like
Yeah.
being able, not even just like trying to be like, "Oh, listen to my woes," but just
No,
like at least
yeah.
like be like, "This is how I'm really feeling." Like
I do that too. Like, I'm a big person now. I can't not tell people how I feel.
yeah.
So, like, even though my parents are always like my first person point of call, and they'll always listen, I'm so determined to make sure, like, if I'm upset or about anything, that I tell someone, like,
Yeah.
and I talk to them and talk it out, because you feel so much better in the end.
Yeah.
But I'm
yeah,
huge
sorry.
on like telling, like, even if like you're upset with someone, like, it's so important to like talk to them and like actually like have a conversation.
Yeah.
You fix things so much quicker. I remember when I was in primary school, there was like this big unspoken like fight between all my group of friends,
Oh,
and like it just
scandal.
was like a miscommunication. And then one day we were all invited to this party, and it ended up blowing up, and I cried and called my mom, and I was like, "They're fighting
Oh
with
my
me."
God.
Anyway, but like we like sat and talked it out. We all felt so much better, and that's literally been the theme throughout my life. Like, people who avoid talking about something must feel terrible, because I have a compulsive need to tell people how I really feel. Like,
Yeah.
and I'll consider like, oh, maybe I shouldn't, like, maybe it's not good, but I always end up being like, no, like, I need to like get this off my chest, or I'm gonna like sit on it for like 500 years and like stew on it, and you don't feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still coming. I realize just how much of a hypocrite I am talking to people.
Yeah. Cool.
Because I'm like literally always about like talking about things.
Yeah.
But at the same
hard.
time, exactly, it's like it's a process. It's all
Yeah.
hard. And I do like, as not to be like, I never talk about things I'm emotionally like cut off. I try and I like want to,
Yeah.
but I suppose I'm just more maybe picky or like choosy with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something to work on.
No, but it's true. Like, some people, like, I've also learned that sometimes it's not worth it, because like some people you can like harp and rave and go on and say like why you're upset, but like it's not going to process in their minds if you're having to tell them more than 2 times.
And
Like,
unless they're ready to hear it,
Yeah.
they're not gonna hear it.
I usually, if I have an argument with someone, and like if we're angry at each other, I usually like say to the person, we can talk about it now, or I can give you space for weeks, months, whatever, and we can talk about it then. But like, I usually don't want to like lose a friendship. It's always like, how can I fix this? But like sometimes it takes people a little bit longer to process their thoughts, and I feel like you and I are very quick thinkers. So,
I think so.
yeah. So I'm like very quick to making up my mind about things.
Yeah.
And so like some people it takes a little bit longer to like process their feelings.
Yeah.
So
I always like, something I've started doing a bit more often, because I think so much, and a lot of the time I'll like take a lot of different like perspectives into account to like come
Yeah.
to what I'm like, to be like, did I really feel like that?
yeah.
But now one of the things I'll do is like make a literal, if I'm in the moment, to say with whoever or whatever, and I'm like, I can't do this, or I'm like, this actually makes me really like upset or
Yeah.
mad or
Yeah.
whatever. I'll like make a mental note and be like snapshot, remember these emotions, and then later on, if it like comes up again, I'll like still like think about other different perspectives, but be like, this is how you're feeling at the time.
Yeah.
I think that's like important.
Do you know, I do this atrocious thing. I feel like I'm in high school when I do this, but my phone has like thousands and thousands of notes.
Yeah.
So when I like get emotional at someone, I always like sit there and write like how I feel and like my perspective and their perspective. And I literally like do that for everything that I go through in life.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's probably
You need to
awful.
print those out.
No, they're awful. It's
Yeah,
like,
but for yourself, you need to print those out.
Luke. Luke, you have been very mean to me and I'm very upset. And I just think, I feel I'm being very disrespected and I deserve better in my life. But you know what? I will move on. I will be bigger than this.
I need to read these.
They're awful.
I can literally see you in 30, 40 years writing like
I'll publish them.
like or like just like do a TV show where it'll be like your like life, but you'll like flashback to like little you like writing out these letters or something.
I slept with this person and then they didn't call me back. And I'm very mad and I'm not gonna let this happen to me again. Yeah, stuff like that. It's awful.
That so much. I'll like stream of conscious like writing on my phone. Yeah. And I start like compiling them into like the topics that they're all about.
Oh my god, that's actually so organized.
It's actually like so fun.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not fun. It's just I really like having that introspective like or retrospective, whatever the word is. Look at like my own mind and like the thoughts, because so interesting to see like
how far you've come.
Yeah. And
that's, exactly why I like sharing all of the stupid Facebook statuses that I used to write, because I'm like, wow, she has come a long way.
Yeah. Well, and when you're a teenager, you don't think about those like you're not thinking about like, I suppose the long effects or like the long effects of like the actions of what you're doing, whether they be like friends or I don't know, whatever. But having that hindsight and being like, oh, that's like, this is what I was like.
I'm glad almost that Facebook exists because I can look back and go, wow, you may not feel like you've lived a life, but you really have. You would have hated me, I reckon.
Oh my gosh.
You would have been like,
I would have loved, because I would have loved to have met you. Cause
I reckon we would have been in laptop club together.
We probably would.
I would have been playing Pokemon in the back.
Do you know how good it was though? Like someone would get a game and have it on their USB and it would just spread across
like a virus.
Oh, and then we'd all just be playing the same game for like weeks.
Same.
So fun.
Yeah.
But also, I literally think it ruined like. I was doing so well. And then I think it just like opened up a world of distractions. I would like
rush through like computer class so I could get to the end of class, because then they would have like a double unit and they wouldn't have enough work for us. So I would rush through it all.
Oh my gosh.
And then they would be like, okay, free computer time. And I would be like, cool, I'm playing Halo now with all my friends. Or like, cool, I'm playing Pokemon Ruby now on my like downloadable. So good.
So good. It's like, it's funny to think, like you said, I remember going into I remember we still had computer classes one time, even though we all had our laptops and we had to like do the learn to type.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you do like the thing where it was like A, S, D, F,
K,
the
speed
L,
typing.
like,
I frothed that.
We had this woman and she was I'd live for her now. We had this woman and she was clearly like an older woman who like sort of like took a few like computer IT classes, and everyone this is so mean, kids are mean. Everyone collectively behind her back called her turkey neck because she had this bit of skin under her like chin and wobbled when she got angry. And she got angry very often because people would just mess around in computer class, and it was awful. And then at the end of like each computer class, she'd be like, "Okay, I'm going to get up the YouTube.
The YouTube.
You can watch one fun video." And I would obviously go up and be like, "Annoying orange," but like, but like sometimes people would go up and like put their vlogs up, like that they'd uploaded. Or this one time, my friend Raph unplugged her keyboard and like plugged it in somewhere else, and she couldn't get the keyboard working. And then she called IT, and then he plugged walking in without her seeing so she, like, they come.
Oh my god, that's
It's working.
Literal, like, student-teacher bullying.
And then they'd leave and they'd do it again.
Oh my god.
And then IT would literally be like, stop calling us.
And she was like, I'm legitimately struggling
I'm a
here.
middle-aged woman
Oh
that
my
can't work my
gosh.
computer. Yeah. So good.
Oh, teenagers are awful.
We're awful. Did you have any nasty teachers that you just really hated?
Well, there was, I think there was one teacher who didn't
Okay.
like me at all.
Yeah.
Usually the teachers liked me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really do anything bad.
Yeah, we had this teacher who she was sort of like a sub, but she was like a permanent sub in the library. The evil librarian. Anyway, so we used to have like our freeze in like this study room in the library, and it was for year 12s, like when they had it. And we had the best time in there to start with. We would get snacks, we would all work, we'd have laughs. Like, you would not laugh as hard as when you were in like your free units.
Yeah.
But eventually she started like enforcing things like, you have to keep the door open, and like, you cannot make any noise. This is a free unit for you to study, like things like that, right?
Gross.
And it got awful. Anyway, my friend Raph and I decided one day, as a joke, we were going to make a petition against it, right? And we were like, yeah, we've made this petition on change.org. It's so funny. Like, blah, blah, blah. And I went to sleep, and overnight Raph had shared it on Facebook, and when we woke up in the morning, it had 250 signatures, including teachers.
Oh my gosh.
And I've never been in more trouble in my life. I never got in trouble. And then all of a sudden I was getting called to like the year 12 coordinator. They were like, so, didn't expect to see you in here. Because Raph fully like dobbed me in. Like, they were like, who did this? And Raph was like, it was Jayde.
Oh my god.
And so they put me in there like, you're a good student. What's that? You need to remove it. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess. And then like, I thought I removed it, but I didn't remove it properly. And then it like had another 50 on it.
Oh my god.
And then they were like, Jayde, you need to remove, like, I got into so much trouble. They're like, you could make the school liable. Blah, 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 blah. This is against a staff member. This is awful. Anyway, felt so bad, but she deserved it. The evil librarian.
What did it happen? Anything?
No,
Just take
nothing
it down.
happened. I ended up like moving rooms. We were like, nah, screw you.
Oh,
like,
I ended up moving schools.
I moved schools.
That's what I thought you
Screw
said.
them. No, I moved to like different rooms. I went and studied in the drama room instead with Raph, and we probably could have used teacher supervision because we ended up just playing like Five Nights at Freddy's in the dark.
Oh my god. I remember in year 12, Slender Man was the craze. I have videos of me playing Slender Man.
Hey
I
guys,
had one
it's
on my
PewDiePie.
Facebook. It wasn't, you couldn't even see the screen. It was just my face, and it was the most, for some reason year 12 I was dyeing my hair like just lighter brown.
I can't even imagine your hair dyed.
So strange. I also look so pale. There's a picture I look sick because my hair's like this light brown and I'm like pale. Anyways.
You're so tan, I can't even picture it.
Especially now. I was gonna say something. I never really had teachers. At least I've probably just blacked them out of my memory.
Yeah.
If I did have bad encounters with them, except for one of our woodwork teachers. I just don't think he liked me.
God.
He just
We had a really creepy like not woodwork teacher, but like a graphics teacher.
Oh yeah.
He had a really creepy name though. That's why I wanted to say it. He sounded like a Scooby-Doo villain. Anyway, so he we'd come up and be like, "Oh, sir, do you have a rubber?" And he'd be like, "We don't have condoms here." Like,
oh
to,
my
like,
god.
you 7 girls.
That's so inappropriate.
We don't have condoms here, but you can have an eraser. Like,
Oh.
awful.
That's so awful. It's so awkward.
And then we had this art teacher who absolutely got high in his like car every morning beforehand. Like, he just so didn't want to be there.
That's amazing.
Right?
That's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
I remember because I went to a Christian school.
Yeah.
And I had a teacher who was one of my homeroom teachers. And like you had it was like a scale of Christian like levelness like would vary on everyone.
Yeah.
But there's this one teacher. So we used to have morning devotions at 8:20 till 9 o'clock.
Sure.
Oh no, from 8:40 till
Yeah.
9 o'clock. So for 20 minutes. and they would always, like, depending on who it was, they'd like tell like a fun story, or it was like a biblical story, or like whatever. One morning she spent the 20 minutes literally shouting at us that Noah's Ark happened, the flood happened, they have irrefutable proof that it happened. Anyone who says otherwise is wrong, and they're just denying science. And I was just like, what is happening? It was
She
so
saw something
strange.
on the news.
She was a lot.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think this has been a roller coaster, but I feel like a really good roller coaster.
I feel like that was so fun.
I didn't expect us to go this far out.
Yeah.
Real, but I mean, I loved it. We're probably gonna bring it to an end here. Thank you, Jade, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that we finally did it.
I am too. I'm stoked. I've always wanted to be on a podcast.
It's so fun though.
Yeah.
Like just talking about whatever.
Yeah, this is good.
But no, yes, thank you for coming
Thank you for having
being on this
me.
with me. You're welcome. I'm gonna record a proper outro later.
Yeah.
Because I do that.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on, and thank you everyone for listening. Then.
Thank you.
Okay, bye guys. Bye.
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 Bye-bye now.
Wow, see, I told you it was going to be a roller coaster. But here we are again at the very end. Thank you again, Jade, for coming on the podcast. It was so good to have you on. Usually I ask people to plug something of theirs, but unfortunately I forgot to ask her. So I asked her now, and she has an Instagram. So if you want to go check out Jade's Instagram, it's at Jayde with 3 E's, Elizabeth Gray with an A. I'm going to have that linked in the description, so if you want to check it out, go for it. She's amazing and hilarious, and you'll definitely want to follow her. But yes, thank you again, Jade, for coming onto the podcast. Thank you for reaching the end of the podcast. If you like the podcast, please don't forget to leave a rating, a review, a like, subscribe, or whatever you feel like you would want to do. The podcast is on YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. I'm looking to put it out on other platforms at the moment, but for now, those 3 are working for me. Thank you so much for listening. There'll be a new episode out next Thursday, and have a lovely day. I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.